The following is a story of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement. It illustrates the essence of Torahpractic healing. So listen to that. A certain patient was so weak that he could not utter a single syllable. Even his doctor feared the worst. He called the anxious wife aside and said gently, "I'm afraid there is nothing more I can do for him." It so happened that the Baal Shem Tov and his students were passing through the town at that time. The Baal Shem Tov went to the ailing man. He dismissed everyone from the room. His students hastily went outside to the window to see what would transpire. The Baal Shem Tov sat quietly with the patient, whispering in his ear for over 2 hours. Finally, he signaled for the man's wife and instructed her to prepare some meat broth. As soon as the steaming broth was ready, she held it to her husband's parched lips. Slowly, he took sip after careful sip, until at last the bowl was empty. A little color returned to the man's cheeks, which only minutes earlier had been deathly pale. Then, to the amazement of the wife and the doctor, the man opened his mouth and began to speak. The Baal Shem Tov continued attending to him until he was completely restored to health. Bewildered by the miraculous events he had just witnessed, the doctor asked the Baal Shem Tov what he had done. "There is no logical explanation for my patient's recovery," he claimed. "I know that the poor man's blood vessels were diseased beyond cure." The Baal Shem Tov replied, "You comprehended the patient physically, whereas I comprehended him spiritually. Our bodies contain both organs and vessels. We have 248 organs, which correspond to the 248 positive precepts of behavior. We also have 365 vessels, and these correspond to the 365 negative precepts. When a person does not conduct himself according to one of these precepts, the organ or vessel corresponding to that precept is affected. If he transgresses many negative precepts, a large number of vessels are impaired. This has a detrimental effect on his circulation, putting the man's life in danger. This is why I spoke to the soul of the patient. I appealed to it to do tshuva, to return and reconnect with its divine essence, and it agreed to do so. As a result, all the man's organs and vessels began to function efficiently once more. In this way, I was able to heal him." Note that there are 3 aspects to the Baal Shem Tov's healing: comprehending the spiritual source of the patient's illness, enabling the patient to make behavioral changes, and attending to the patient's physical well-being. Likewise, Torahpractic healing also focuses on 3 aspects of the individual: spiritual, which includes your intellect, emotions, and instincts, behavioral, which includes thoughts, speech, and action, and physical, organs, vessels, and your environment. It's important to understand that these 3 aspects are inseparable. You cannot be viewed simply as a spiritual being or exclusively from a physical perspective, or only according to your behavior. We can take a step further. Even though you are composed of 613 spiritual organs and vessels, and 613 physical organs and vessels, each different from the other, all of these are integrated and unified as one. This is so much so that each of your 613 organs and vessels is completed by each of the others, and a deficiency or illness in one causes deficiency in all 613 of them. And this applies not only to your physical body or spiritual soul individually. As the Maggid of Mezrich, the leading disciple of the Baal Shem Tov, taught, a small hole in the body causes a large hole in the soul. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, the heir to the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov and Maggid of Mezrich, emphasizes this point when he writes, "The purpose of your soul's descent to earth is to reveal the harmony that is inherent in the created world, beginning with the small world, namely you, a creature of body and soul." This principle forms the core of Torahpractic healing. That is, you are a spiritual soul in a physical body acting willfully in this world.